The problem is Parrot, or the problem with Parrot. I know that sounds funny, but I believe both of these statements are quite true. Parrot Analytics is everything wrong with how media companies look at mathematical models to predict what the next big thing will be. Now, consider this an introduction video to what will eventually be a series on Parrot Analytics, and with that, I guess, here we go.
Ladies and gentlemen, hiss and foes, welcome to the CultureCasino!
Before we get fully immersed in today's topic, I'd like to remind you that one of the channels that I really truly enjoy is JAYNE Theory. And JAYNE Theory is right now on her quest to get her watch hours up to the required 4,000 here on YouTube. Since her videos and her voice are truly awesome, in my opinion, please find a way to check in on her content and contribute to some of those valuable watch hours. Now, let's get started. Parrot Analytics, like many other startups on the path to building a better mousetrap through computer modeling and AI, found their way from New Zealand all the way to the shores of the United States. They headquartered themselves in Los Angeles on the backs of a lot of venture capital. The co-founders have patented a process that analyzes data sets that are collected from around the globe, about 2 billion a day. The idea is actually quite simple. Find a way to quantify what people are interested in. They define this in terms that they've coined called demand metrics. In fact, you'll find that they coin a lot of terms along the way, and it's kind of confusing, but let's dive in a bit. They arrive at these demand metrics by scouring and scraping data from social media sites, media sources, blogs, fan fiction, all kinds of places on the internet, including P2P networks, like think BitTorrent and places like that. In other words, their algorithm gathers data like our community's own data racer, if you're familiar with data racer. They aggregate these and then they weight them, and the outcomes are then filtered through a hierarchy, wow, easy for me to say, that they believe is accurate. While they claim that their methodology is purely objective, I have to ask, how? Perhaps in the sense that these people they're not aware that they're being measured, and maybe that's where they think they're being objective. But by weighting their data the way that they do, they're essentially creating the subjectivity that they're trying to avoid. But anyway, let's push forward. As I said, this is a system that they have patented. You can actually look it up for yourself. It's pretty dense as far as reading goes, but it's real straightforward. It's not complicated, and it cites all of the things that they look to and how they arrive at their conclusions. To break it down simply, I'll merely read from their own description and let them explain their particular brand of voodoo. This is actually an article or informational piece. It's not quite a white paper, but it's written by Rebecca Parrott. Parrot Analytics' comprehensive audience attention measurement system captures the world's largest audience behavior dataset. We extract the signals from the noise to deliver the first globally standardized measurement of TV audience demand for all markets in all language and across all platforms and devices. That was 2 sentences, guys. Kind of wordy. Our technology, which has been granted a U.S. patent, quantifies global consumer demand for content. Billions of people interact with TV content each month, and Parrot Analytics systems collect and analyze the activities, interactions, and behaviors from over 2 billion people every day, which also includes 350 million people strong first-party TV consumption dataset. Really? Our data sources include search engines, wikis, and informational sites, fan and critic rating sites, social video sites, blog, and micro-blogging sites, social media platforms, peer-to-peer apps, and open streaming platforms. Pretty wide, right? Wide net. Interestingly enough, You'll see how they're weighted in a second. Our demand rank system ensures that important demand signals are weighted more heavily than others. Watching or downloading a series, we use factors such as the level of effort required as the key arbitrator, enabling us to filter out the noise, which results in a demand metric that is much more a measure of than a measure of buzz. I don't believe that's true. The more time and consumer effort required, the more importance is attached to each signal. This is just one of the factors that sets us far apart from single source systems, for example, social listening tools. In other words, scrapers that only look at, let's say, hashtags on Twitter, which they also do. Anyway, we'll keep going. Once all the signals are weighted and combined, the audience demand for each show almost anywhere in the world can be compared with that of any other show using our globally standardized demand expressions metric adjusted on a per capita basis. Again, they invent words. It's fantastic. Or entire phrases, a whole language. The end result is that we are able to provide a sophisticated, holistic view of each TV show's demand in the market. In doing so, our demand measurement system is able to quantify today's attention economy. No, I don't think you can, but we will. They summarize their methodology. I'll just read their buzzwords and then we'll continue. Unbiased, stating that our methodology extracts empirical evidence on consumer behavior from consumer actions, avoiding biases that come from panels and surveys. Actually, the information you're collecting is incredibly biased in that regard, but that's okay. Robust. Our sources mirror a wide diversity of consumer actions that are collected at massive and global scale on a recurring basis, adding robustness and minimizing failure points. Okay. That I can't argue too much with that one. Nuanced. Our system transforms a diverse set of natural consumer actions into signals that typify intent, so they're trying to measure intent, reflecting nuances on how consumers react to different content. If that were true, we wouldn't be getting all the agenda-driven programming that we're getting. Moving on. Holistic. Intent determines demand, and demand not only includes viewership, but also interest to learn about a TV show and a desire to share, comment, and create. This offers our clients a holistic perspective on the relevance of content in consumers' lives. Yeah, if you go out and, well, we'll get there in a minute. Most of this stuff is total gobbledygook and it actually doesn't logically make any sense, but again, we'll get there. Granular. Every day, demand is measured on a per title, per country basis, setting a transparent standard that eases comparability of results across titles and markets. Well, I believe that might be true. I mean, if you apply a flawed system across the board, it's equally applied. So, moving on, if you look, and this is the part of the fun that I get to enjoy. In this graphic that you see here, these are their listed sources, the sources that they've listed, and the hierarchy, which we'll look at in a second, of the weights that are assigned to each of them. Notice what's weighted most favorably or most heavily, depending upon how you'd like to state that. This is how they say they or claim they extract the signal from the noise. The demand rank is creative participation, which means I think reviews, those blog sites, the creator created content, those are the things I believe they're indicating here. In fact, I'm pretty certain of it. So the things that you and I do here on the platform, such as YouTube or the content and critique that we do on Twitter and other social media platforms, Facebook, etc., all that I believe is referred to as creative participation. Active consumption. Well, that makes perfect sense. I believe they are trying to indicate that they weight what they can measure as far as actual consumption of the said media here. The problem is that when it comes to the streaming services, they really don't have a lot of insight. Then the next thing is deep research. Not clearly defined, no explanation for what that is. Perhaps they're deep diving into the informational sites, the fan wikis, all that other stuff. Hard to say. Maybe they are looking at the Google search terms for people that search for these things. Again, all of these things would be interesting, except for I would guess, based on some information that I have that we'll get into in a minute, any deep research is usually done by folks like myself who critique stuff primarily. Social encouragement. This has to be your hashtags, all of the other stuff. The people that are, giving positive reviews, encouraging their friends to watch, etc. In various platforms. Public posting. Again, this is also social media, weighted. Expressing an opinion, primarily if it's in... all of these things are essentially the same stuff. They're basically saying we're going to weight these things, but then they're essentially all the same thing. Because expressing opinion only happens in a public forum and the social media sites. Subscribing to updates. Well, lots of people want to know when a show starts. Therefore, if they are subscribing to updates about a show, they must be interested, right? Maybe, maybe not. Indicating interest. Well, again, they're measuring this only from social media. And passive impressions. Advertising? Anyway, look, they think that they have, created a better mousetrap. I, on the other hand, disagree very heartily, and so should you. They really are trying to sell you on the idea that they actually know what the audience wants. And to be honest with you, I don't think they do. I can go further into this, but actually I probably won't. What I'll do is I'll say this. All they care about in all of these things is the attention to whatever it is, whatever show it is, whatever movie, whatever it is, miniseries, it doesn't matter. It boils down to simply talking about it on the social media platforms, despite what they say in their own white paper documents and everything else that I've read through. So it doesn't matter if it's good or bad conversation. The hashtag that you put out is tracked just like Gary's been telling you for a long time. And the fact that they're tracking it weighs very heavily on, whether or not it's going to be viewed as positive retention, I would guess. Anyway, good or bad, their takeaway is it's still attention, so it still counts. I think that's really dumb. Of course, they really don't understand what negative reviews actually do. They should probably review the following article that I have from 2018 from Inc. magazine that helps define the power of the review ratio, which pretty much breaks down very clearly what a negative review actually produces. So I'll continue. The ratio revealed. Human behavior, math, and logic. Here's how I discovered it. A customer who has a negative experience is highly likely to share that experience by leaving a bad review. A customer who has a positive experience, on the other hand, is unlikely to leave a good review. In my experience, only 1 in 10 happy customers leaves a good review. Your company or product rating, typically out of 5 stars, which I think most people use now, reflects an overall average of good and bad reviews. So if your goal is to maintain an overall rating of 4 stars, you'll need 4 5-star reviews to make up for every 1-star review. That makes sense. Assuming that only 1 of every 10 happy customers leaves a positive 5-star review, and knowing that it takes 4 5-star reviews to make up for each 1-star review, you can figure that it takes 40 positive customer experiences to make up for a single bad review. That's really impressive. All this goes to make sense, as far as I'm concerned, or it makes good sense, for a good to bad review ratio. I think that this person has explained it very clearly. You also know that, of course, when you're talking about your product, your show, your brand, whatever, when your customers are unhappy, there's a 91% chance they won't do business with you again or pay attention to your product or your brand or your show or your film. Dissatisfied customers, and you've heard this for a very long time, typically tell 9 to 15 other people about their experience. Some tell 20 or more. And that was actually something that the White House Office of Consumer Affairs actually came up with a while back. Negative customer experience is the reason 86% of customers quit doing business with a company. That means they're not going to pay attention to the show. It's not going to mean they're going to pay attention to the brand. And that's because of the customer experience impact report that was put out also a little while ago. That's a huge number. So once you've turned off those folks, they're not coming back. Good customer experiences lead 42% of consumers to return. So your retention, even if you do a good job, is only 42%. So you absolutely need that in whatever extreme that you can actually make it happen. Regardless, that's a little bit it's a little bit out of the realm of this discussion, but it gives us some information on the fact that consumers are fairly predictable on their likes to dislike ratio. So when you see that many dislikes, I'm certain there are far more, because those people are telling many other people their negative experience with your show or film, as we talk about it here. And I think that the disturbing thing right now when it comes to Parrot Analytics is to think about that this model is being used for predictive consumption. This means that networks and other media players are going to look at this data and try to find a trend that will basically only develop shows inside the limited trends, so inside that limited scope. This will result in even more homogenized content, even if there is little demand for it. Worse yet, outliers like, outliers like shows such as, let's say, the first season of Stranger Things or Cobra Kai would probably not exist, as their modeling would not have shown any dramatic upsides with any audiences, at least based on the way that they run this algorithm across their collected data. Even with data going back about 5 years now, because that's about as long as they've been collecting it, there's still no way for this system to predict trends or an interest in actual new ideas. All they're going to identify is whether or not it fits within one of the ones they've previously identified. So this becomes a tighter and tighter closed loop if there's no innovation anywhere along the way. So as a creator, when you look at programs in this manner, and this very mathematical, cold way of looking at things that's also very inaccurate in my opinion. We'll keep diving into that, because there's going to be more. You're going to find that as a creator, you'll be targeting a smaller and smaller pie wedge each and every time, just to get that audience attention that these set of metrics are actually looking for. And chances are you're likely going to miss anyway. So there's, again, also the negative ratio I was just talking about, that's not factored for. Studios will produce more shows the studio is going to ignore. Finally, Parrot doesn't have all the information that they actually need for a true picture of consumption and consumer habits, because right now there's little to no transparency from the streaming services. So that's not helpful. Anyway, there is so much more to this subject that I simply can't do all of it in this one video. So what I've decided to do is to do a few more. Like I said, this is merely an introduction to them. In fact, I'm going to actually track a show, and maybe, for instance, I'll track Star Trek Discovery, and I'll follow it all the way through with their numbers and the way that they look at these programs. We know, those of us who have been paying attention in the community, how awful that show actually is, and how little viewership there is, truly. I mean, despite, critical attention from some. So let's see what Parrot gives us as we look at what the actual real world experience is. Again, maybe with this show, maybe with something else, but that's part of my plan. And that actually brings us to the end of this Parrot Analytics introduction video. Be on the lookout for a future one or two episodes that I'll do on this subject, because I think that I think that there's a lot here to boil down. But again, my takeaway is they are applying the data in a very odd way. They are truly only relying on social media interaction on the internet to build this model. And in that way, it's not different than a lot of other aggregators. Essentially, this is Rotten Tomatoes for studios, hoping to have a leg up on producing content or trying to find successful content. And clearly, since this has been applied by many of them, it's not working. So anyway, let's just end it here. Be sure to support other independent curators here on the platform. As I mentioned before, Jane Theory can certainly use the watch hours. Thank you very much for your support here of my channel. I do appreciate it. Hopefully I did not bore you completely to death with this one. Be sure to take care of yourself, take care of others, wash your hands, of course. And until next time, bye. Hey there. One last quick note before I let you go, and before we make it to the end of this video. I, CultureCasino, have a brand new Teespring store. That's right, you can now go to Teespring, look up CultureCasino, or use the link in the video below, and pick out some handsome and beautiful CultureCasino merchandise with many different designs and styles and colors, many different items. I was actually surprised at all of the things that you could create. And I have some more designs and items on the way here shortly. But, if you want to support the channel in that way, there is some merch. Otherwise, here comes the ending. Thanks for visiting today. Be sure you're subscribed and hit that for alerts.
Yay!
Of course, like and share all of the videos that you can, as it helps with the algorithm. Have a great day.